that was so liberating, right? Because I worried on travel that I wasn't going to have a choice and I was going to be in a spot where I was hungry and I was going to have to compromise. But because I was planning ahead and thinking ahead, I didn't have to do that. And it was, I mean, if you ask Tiffany, it was an incredibly liberating experience. I think that was the culminating point of this whole program for me, was that 7-week trip and having it go that well.
So I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me today.
Sure.
Can you tell me when you went through the 12-day program?
Because I'd reached the end of my rope trying to lose weight. And I wasn't tremendously overweight. I had, and I still have weight to lose, but I had probably 30 pounds that I wanted to lose, which wasn't right huge, but I was very uncomfortable in my body. And I'd been plant-based for a number of years, or mostly plant-based. And I just had run out of things to do and didn't know what else to try. And so I finally tried this.
And
I'm so much happier. I discovered calorie density, which no one tells you about. You're just supposed to go plant-based and weight just comes off. And that was never an issue with me before, but had become in the years since I retired from the Marine Corps and COVID. And it was because I was eating vegan ice cream and all the junk food and coconut milk and yes, all those good things. And so that was a great revelation. And when I dropped that, I dropped 10 to 12 pounds right away. And I loved the support I got from everybody, from Dr. Lim and from Tiffany. The emotional eating discussions from Dr. Lim were really the most helpful because that was me, right? I was by myself. I was eating emotionally a lot. And that was the biggest challenge. And he called me on it right away. He knew me for 5 minutes and he's like, yeah, so this is going on. And that really helped me to identify the parts in the day to pay attention to and the things to work on, because it wasn't as simple as calorie density was a big part of it, but it wasn't that simple. That wasn't going to get me to my goal, especially of just feeling good in my body, because I do have a weight goal, but it's more important that I feel good in my body, because I know I wasn't terribly overweight, right? So this isn't a matter of really being unhealthy. This is a matter of feeling good about myself. And so I've been working on that a lot. And the support has been wonderful. One of the reasons I finally did the program is because it's a year long, because you get that support throughout the year, because I know my life was going to have different things happening. I went to the UK for 7 weeks this summer.
Wow, how'd that go?
Did, and it was amazing. I did so well. Oh my goodness. Tiffany and I did a great job while I was in the UK, and that made me feel good because I travel a lot and I love to travel, and I wanted to know I could do this and travel and not worry about it. I didn't take a scale with me. I didn't weigh myself, and I came back and I weighed exactly the same as when I left, which to me was success.
That's great.
Right. And I have lost a total of 18 pounds.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I feel great, and in all my pictures while I was in the UK, I'm like happy and I'm taking pictures. And I sent a note to Tiffany. I'm like, I haven't wanted to take pictures in years, so that was a big thing. So the program really has done everything I wanted it to. I think it honed in on my big issue, which is emotional eating, and always has been. It's just floated to the front and the back of my life, depending on the year and the time of my life I was in. And taught me about calorie density, which I had no idea how important that was, because I had definitely bought into the idea that if it's plant-based and it's whole food, right? I know the vegan junk food is bad for you, but like, if it was avocados, it was okay. And if it was nuts, it was okay. And right. And I really bought into that, and a deeper understanding of how all that works was helpful. So yeah, that's why I came to the program, and I'm so happy I did. I didn't know if I was going to get out of it what I wanted to. I was kind of nervous, but I'd reached the end of my rope, and I feel like I'm a resourceful person, but I had run out of things to try. And so, yeah, it was really great. It's been wonderful.
That's great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. So you were in the UK for 7 weeks. You did great. How did you make it work?
Oh my goodness. So in the first part of my trip, I was pet sitting. So I had the whole house to myself. And so I was able to cook. And I cooked really simply because you go into other people's houses, people don't even have sharp knives, never mind spices. Right? So I have all the things in my kitchen. I have the Instant Pot, and I have the air fryer, and I have the Vitamix, and I have the food processor. People don't have those things. They don't even have a sharper knife. And so I went really, really simple. And it was potatoes, pasta, and oatmeal I lived on, and quinoa when I could get it. And veggies, but there weren't a whole lot of options for veggies in the UK. Like, their grocery stores were pretty limited. So I could get like broccoli and onions and mushrooms and whatever. So I would have oatmeal in the morning with berries, and I would sometimes do like either potatoes or quinoa, and then saute some veggies. And at night I would make some pasta and throw some mushrooms and nutritional yeast on top if I could find it. So I cooked. And when I went out sightseeing, Tiffany reminded me, and it was true, people in Europe bring their lunches with them a lot of places, right? And there's picnic tables everywhere, and I could be like other locals and just bring my lunch with me. So I learned to do that. So I actually brought collapsible Tupperwares with me, which were the greatest thing in the world. So I had these big collapsible Tupperwares with me the whole time that I could make food and bring it with me. And I always had a water bottle with me, and I'd throw in an apple. So I was always ready, and I didn't have to be hungry, which saved me the temptation of picking something last minute in a hungry, tired state, right? And I could still indulge if I wanted to. And there were definitely moments when I did, but it was very purposeful. And it was a in advance choice. I found a place that did vegan meat pies. And so I made the choice I was going to go there for lunch, and I had a vegan meat pie. They used jackfruit instead of the meat, and it was delicious. And I sat there for lunch and had a beer, and it was wonderful. Right. But I felt really good about it. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel bad. It was fun. And then that night I went home and had my dinner as usual. During the second part of my trip, I was sightseeing more and didn't have access to a kitchen. So I got really limited, but I always had an electric tea kettle in the room. And so I could always make oatmeal in my collapsible Tupperwares. And I had oatmeal 4 nights in a row for dinner. But it worked, and I ate out of the co-ops for lunch most mornings or most days, right? And the co-ops were like mini grocery stores. So I could get a Mediterranean grain salad, and I could get low-fat hummus, and I could get soups, and they weren't 100% compliant, but Tiffany and I talked about it. It was like, and we agreed it was a better choice than what else I could have chosen. And so I always felt really in control. I felt like I was making purposeful, proactive choices, and I felt good about all of them. So that's how I did it. It was great.
It's like you really made it sustainable, and worked within your lifestyle and didn't make it too difficult. And I love that your cheats were mindful. I mean, that's how I do it, because then you don't feel guilty. It's like, this is my plan. I want to do this. And
exactly. And that was so liberating, right? Because I worried on travel that I wasn't going to have a choice, and I was going to be in a spot where I was hungry and I was going to have to compromise. But because I was planning ahead and thinking ahead, I didn't have to do that. And it was, I mean, if you ask Tiffany, it was an incredibly liberating experience. I think that was the culminating point of this whole program for me, was that 7-week trip and having it go that well.
Yeah, like you could do this anywhere, and it just required some planning, and that's so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And I really leaned into the starches, right? I went back and I found Jeff Novick on YouTube talking about calorie density. And, you know, oatmeal and potatoes are so low in calorie density. He's like, you can eat as much as those as you want. And I said, okay, I'll do that. So I'd have this massive bowl of oatmeal for dinner. And I was like, Jeff said it was okay.
That's great.
And it was,
Mhm.
right? And so I wasn't hungry and I didn't feel like I was depriving myself, which you guys always say is the key.
Awesome. That's what we hope for everyone. So I'm just so happy that, you know, all of those tips and tricks and things that we taught you really resonated and held true while you were traveling. It's just so great to hear.
They really did. Thank you
You
so
know
much.
that this is going to continue, you know, the weight loss will continue, and you've really figured out how to make this a lifestyle, not a diet. And that is
Yes.
so
Yeah, it really does feel like a lifestyle at this point. You know, there are definitely moments where it's still hard to make the better choice, but like it's so much easier than it was. Yeah, because I'm seeing the results and I feel so much better. Just, I feel Tiffany said this about our third call while I was over there. She said, you're so much calmer. You're not fighting yourself anymore. And I was like, you're right. So that was big. That was a big breakthrough for me.
That's great to hear. Well, I'm so happy for you, and glad you've just made these lifestyle changes, and it's exciting.
Thank you so much. I am too.
Yeah. Well, please continue to keep in touch. Are you okay with me using some of this interview on YouTube?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Enjoy the
Thank
rest of your
you.
day.
Okay, you too. Take care.
Thanks, Beth.
Bye.
Bye.